Are you recording? And it's reliable data, the most important thing, because anything coming off of the ECU is more reliable than secondhand gauge. Garage kept for like 14 years on the fly. So we set this up to raise and lower the boost target. So right now this car runs as max as 20 pounds on pump gas, so we can raise it all the way up to 20, or raise it all the way back down to wastegate, which is 12 pounds. Not the biggest fan of these, as they do tend to suck the material up into the turbo, but
this one's new.
I think even his radio is even, yeah.
Well, I think he asked for what, 400, and I think you gave him a little bit more.
So we have Danny's S14 on the dyno. SR20 swapped, and S15 front end. So as Krista made a joke earlier, she called it the triple S. S14, S15, SR20. Very clean car. Car was just recently painted. This is kind of like been a longer project for Danny, and it's very period correct, one could say. This car was probably put together, I think he said somewhere like 10 years ago. You can kind of tell that this is probably one of the cleaner early to mid 2000s kind of build. You can see he's got the Russell AN fittings, which most people don't use that anymore. In the dash, he's got like a Apexi SAFC, a couple analog gauges. As far as I'm aware, it is a stock bottom end SR20. He said it's got HKS cams, ARP head studs. It's a top mount GT30 76R, I believe. We just fitted it with a Link ECU, as it was running the stock ECU and the Apexi SAFC, and of course that never usually works well. So he opted out for the Link ECU and also went for the BTI 3.5-inch screen, so we can adjust boost control, boost target on the fly. And he has a nice little touchscreen that he can play with and view all parameters off the ECU. Other than that, I mean, it's a very clean car, pretty straightforward. You don't see cars like this come through, put together this well. I mean, he's gone through and everything's powder coated. The subframe, the sway bar, all the suspension components. I mean, you look underneath this car and you can eat off of it.
I look underneath it. Yeah, you can see everything is coated.
Yeah, you can see everything. All the suspension parts are powder coated. Every bushing has been replaced. Everything has been gone through. He's had this car for a very long time. I believe in its previous form, it made like somewhere in the low 400s with the, again, I want to say it was stock ECU, Apexi SAFC, a couple other bolt-ons, and some kind of backwards tuning probably with that setup as it is older. We're gonna see if we can revive this old girl and get her back to her glory. I mean, it's got gritty. This is the Type RS blow-off valve. Those things.
Yeah, like a real gritty.
Yeah, genuine gritty. Got the genuine gritty intake. Not that no Freddy shit. He updated the fuel system. It's got ID 1050s, radiant top feed fuel rail, and some AN lines, air motor fuel pressure regulator. So he invested money in the right areas to bring this thing back to life, and should do pretty well. He's got all the race car switches on the dash. They moved the fuse box, and it's underneath the glove box. He's got all the race car switches in the center console, so there's no ignition key. Everything is shaved and mounted and clean. I think even his radio is even, yeah. He's got the original Grady Perfect B turbo timer all in the glove box, and then his head unit's in the glove box, so that's pretty neat.
It is cool.
Yeah, they even moved the sunroof switches down here, as this is all covered up and suede now, and that whole bezel is kind of shaved and cleaned off. I want to say he's got I think the trunk is done in this car too, actually.
You want to pop the trunk? Pop it to the trunk? Yeah, everything is really...
Oh, that's right.
Oh, yeah.
It's a pop lock. So, hey, push the button and it pops. That was kind of a big thing in the early 2000s where people were shaving door handles and all whatnot and just doing electronic pop lock.
I mean, I kind of dig it. Let's bring it back.
Yeah. I think it's got a false floor in here, batteries relocated here. Got the NRG capacitor or battery balancer.
Here's the Apexi exhaust, which I'm a fan of.
Oh yeah, Apexi M1. Work VSX. Yeah, it's kind of an OG classic wheel.
I love them. I'm not gonna lie. I like that lip.
Yeah, that's new.
And he's got these like nice little
LED strips.
Yeah,
so.
like airplane. It's really nice, really well done. All right, so we'll get her on the dyno. I'll get some footage for you.
The engine,
No.
engine dampeners. You don't want to see that stuff.
No. Pretty cool. Yeah, this little.
Oh yeah, HKS air filter. Not the biggest fan of these, as they do tend to suck the material up into the turbo. But
This one's new. It's not. It's
this
not.
one's new.
I guess the trick is with this is to keep an eye on them and clean, replace them. Really, the filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing that needs to be adjusted on this car, I guess, would be that coolant overflow.
Yeah.
Because that's upside down.
Yeah, this port is supposed to be at the bottom, as it's supposed to catch any fluid bled off on the radiator cap, but then it should be able to suck it back in once it cools down and creates a vacuum. But instead, in this case, since it's at the top, it'll bleed off coolant but suck back in air, leading to a situation where you have to top off the coolant and it'll bleed the system every once in a while, because after so many heat cycles, it's going to have a big air bubble in it.
Air bubble. It's going to have to be burped.
Yeah. Which he's aware of that, so he'll probably knock this off, get the bung welder at the bottom, recoat that, and then...
I'm sure it'll be done just as nice as it was.
Yeah, I mean, you even powder coated the harmonic balancer.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That was fun because unfortunately it's powder coated over the timing marks, so I had to figure out where the timing marks were and then sort of remake them. Yeah.
Can you see your...
You can kind of see them right there, actually. Yeah, you're probably not gonna get a good visual on them. Powder coated the oil pan.
Yeah.
And those things come, pretty clean cast aluminum. That's a Greddy oil pan, looks like.
Oh, I'm sure this car's grittied out. It looks like a gritty.
Yeah.
From here. Maybe that's a Freddy. Who knows?
No.
Pump gas. It's stock, right?
Yeah, stock bottom end.
So.
Got the OG Greddy. These are rare. These Greddy oil caps. If I'm not mistaken, those things are pretty rare. People want money for them too.
All right, well, make your offers now. Danny found us on YouTube, so you guys can hit him up in the comments.
Nonetheless, that's good.
But yeah, let's get her going. Loose creeping? What is that on? Wastegate? And how many pound spring?
It's up to 10, but it's up to 14. Need a bigger wastegate.
How many pounds did you want to run?
Well, I'd like to be able to control it.
Yeah. How many pounds is that? 18. Okay. Well, I think he asked for what, 400, and I think you gave him a little bit more. There you go. 46. What do you say?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby. So a couple other things we're gonna do. We'll get that BTI gauge installed once it arrives. It's on the way.
Yeah, it should be here soon.
Yeah. Got the screen too, the 3.5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's all yours, Danny. It's nice and smooth, right? I heard a little boost creep, you said?
Yeah, it's smoothed out as we started adding boost, which was kind of weird, but I mean, that's usually what happens. You reach a point where once you start to add boost, it'll start to smooth out. But that wastegate is kind of on the small end. I think it's like an old tile from like early 2000s too. If you look at the dome, it's like huge. But
Oh yeah,
I mean,
you said you hadn't seen anything, right?
Yeah, it works. Yeah, you can kind of see it in there. It looks like a UFO.
450 horsepower street car. If you had 450 horsepower back in 2000, you'd be pretty quick.
450 is fun for a street car.
All right, we're gonna get her off the dyno. We're back with Danny, his SR20, S14. Edgar just had to install the BTI gauge. Danny can monitor everything all in one little spot. We like the BTI gauge. We'll go over here and see Edgar and let him just do a quick little thing on the BTI gauge. If you guys haven't already and you've made it this far in the video, thank you for watching. And please like and subscribe somewhere down here maybe, or this side, or is it here or here? Wherever it is, just do it. Thanks, it helps. Just to see also kind of who's watching and what you guys like to see. If you want other things, shorter, longer, more detailed, less of my face, more of Edgar's face, more of his butt. I don't care, just let me know. I'm gonna give it to Edgar now, hold on.
Are you recording? We have the 3.5 inch touchscreen BTI gauge. This gauge gets wired up directly to the ECU. Brandon over at BTI Gauges makes plug and play or drop-in harnesses depending on what each ECU you have. So this is already set up for the Link ECU. It is direct plug and play. There's a little bit of setup that's involved in getting this to work and communicate back and forth, but it's all done via CAN. And it's got multiple different layouts and screens for you to toggle between and figure out which screen you like the best. Most people run this screen full time. You can see here you got air fuel ratio, target air fuel ratio, manifold pressure, target boost, ethanol content percentage, H2O, which is your coolant temp, fuel pressure, IAT, intake air temp, and then oil pressure. The engine is not running right now. That's why everything is kind of stagnant and some stuff is zeroed out. You can use this gauge for a lot of cool functions that are built into it. You've got tons of pre-selected screens to choose from. So like this is a gear position screen. So it'll essentially tell you your gear position and a couple other parameters around that. Boost freeze frame. So this will record and store your peak boost and then all of the other values along with your peak boost at the time when peak boost was reached. So for instance, you want to know how many pounds of boost you were running when you just did a pull, but you weren't paying attention to the gauge. You come over to your boost peak freeze frame screen and it'll tell you what your peak boost was and then all your air to fuel ratio, oil pressure, fuel pressure, what it was at that peak boost level. And this automatically resets every time you start to build positive manifold pressure. Diagnostic, this is kind of just like a little bit of everything. It's good to kind of run through real quick if you're having some sort of a drivability issue or an issue with something and you get all the values here on one screen. Fuel pressure, throttle position, oil pressure, injector duty cycle, ethanol content, timing, ignition timing, injection pulse. So it's pretty cool. A couple of transmission screens if you're for the automatic guys. You got transmission temperature, gear, line pressure. And then over here, which is pretty cool, we go to CAN output. And this is kind of like a screen for you to be able to make changes or adjustments on the fly. So we set this up to raise and lower the boost target. So right now this car runs as max as 20 pounds on pump gas. So we can raise it all the way up to 20 or raise it all the way back down to wastegate, which is 12 pounds. And it tells you your target on every screen so you know where you're at. If you want to enable launch control, you can turn it on here. And then once you meet the preset parameters to enable launch control, it's pretty much on. Then you can shut it off.
That's all something that you set up, right?
Right, that's all things that I set up in the
Or the
ECU.
tuner would set up.
Right. You have flat foot shift if you have gear position or clutch switch available. Nitrous if you're running nitrous. A rolling anti-lag, all-wheel drive bias, and then traction control slip ratio. So there's a lot of cool functions in this screen. They have a R34 GTR screen, kind of like how the GTRs have on the center of the dash. So it gives you kind of
cool.
like that same layout of the R34 GTRs, which is pretty neat. And then even options for like if you wanted to add TPMS onto the car, so you can buy the TPMS expander box and get tire pressure monitoring on your screen and view your tire pressure and temperature, which is pretty neat. I personally haven't done that yet.
Since all the newer cars offer that.
Yeah.
So bring a little modern.
This is pretty cool. So you have nitrous screen here. So you got nitrous purge, nitrous disarm, nitrous pressure. So that's good for the nitrous guys. You kind of got a dedicated screen for that. But most people opt to just, that gives you most of everything you want to view. You got a engine RPM sweep up top. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
He has all these other gauges that are
Yeah, well, these were all gauges that were
OG.
installed in the early 2000s. Not really needed anymore, but now you got the BTI screen. So, I mean,
Now
you already
they're
got
just for
boost,
looks.
air fuel ratio, battery voltage, throttle position, engine RPM, all on one gauge. So there's no need to have multiple gauges in the car and start to double up on sensors, because now your ECU has a sensor and then your gauge has a sensor. So it reduces a lot of clutter, a lot of unnecessary wiring, and it's literally just one harness from the gauge to the ECU, 4 wires, power, ground, can high, can low, and then everything is done. You got nothing else to do except set it up on the ECU, how you want to use it, set the communication up, program what you want to do with it, and you're good to go. And it's reliable data, the most important thing, because anything coming off of the ECU is more reliable than a secondhand gauge that you're going to see. These gauges were designed as a reference only. You kind of get used to what the gauges read. When things start to fall out of the parameters of what you would normally see on that gauge, then you can start to question if there's something wrong with the car or whatnot. But as far as using it for die-hard accurate tuning data, you don't use these gauges for that. BTI gauges is the way to go. We've done the Link gauges, the Haltech gauges. They all work, but nothing, in my opinion, is as good, as clear, and works as well as the BTI gauges. And they are made to order. Brandon does get them out pretty fast.
Yeah, he did. I didn't realize they were made
and
to
he does
order.
have a lot of stock on the shelf too, so it's just a matter of kind of just putting it together, loading it with the correct firmware for your ECU, getting you the drop-in harness or whatever harness you select, and then gets it shipped out the door. Like I said, we had it in about a week and a half.
All right, well, thank you. That was really informative. Oh, real quick though, let's just admire the interior here, because this is like all suede. Is that what it is? Suede? I didn't touch it.
Yeah, it feels like it's suede.
Suede.
Suede out.
It's really clean,
Suede
all black
out.
interior, and I mean, we didn't go back there, but I vacuumed up here because I wasn't sure how much, because I feel like every speck of dust came from us in the shop because this car's so clean. So
It happens. It's been pollen season.
yeah, we didn't touch the outside.
All the cars are getting pollened up, and nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, the outside's covered in pollen, but that's not our specialty, paint. So detailing.
Yeah, vehicle detail and
Yeah.
body work. That's
not us. And so yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. Appreciate y'all. See you next time.